Hello, everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is William Malone, where we talk about real estate investing. And this is real estate for, beginners or people who have been in real estate for a while and they're just trying to keep up on information on what's going on in real estate. Because things in real estate change all the time, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, and we just got to keep up on what's going on. Just like things with the big, beautiful bill, a lot of things in there about real estate that people need to know about. So exchanging information is very important when it comes to real estate. So with that being said, let's get started. So the topic of the day is 5 common mistakes made when investing in multifamily property. One of the big things that I see is that people don't be patient when it comes to looking for a property. You have to be patient when it comes to looking for a property, especially when you're first starting out, when you're beginning with real estate. One big thing is finding a property that's in your area. You don't want to stray too far from your area or where you're at, so you can keep an eye on the property, especially if it's your first property, investment property. You don't want to get something that's 4 hours away and it's gonna, you're not able to check on the property on a regular basis. You want to get something that's close. The problem with that can be is that not every deal is going to work out. You're going to find more deals that you walk away from than deals that you say yes to. You're going to hear the word no a lot more than you hear the word yes. That's just the way it is when it comes to multifamily property. And to be honest, it's good to be picky when it comes to real estate property, because the more picky you are, the less mistakes you will make. And the thing you want to do is keep the same strategy over and over and over and over again. Don't stray from your strategy. So you always, with beginning, my advice would be to get something that's close. So you have to be patient in order to do that, to find something that's close. It may take a while, it may take a few months, it might take a year, but you have to constantly keep looking, and eventually you'll find what you're looking for. Another thing with being patient is finding the right size. You may run across a 2-unit and you're looking for a 4-unit. You may come across a 4-unit and you're looking for a 10-unit. Now the 2-unit and the 4-unit, it probably wouldn't vary as much. As if you're getting a good price, I can understand you going with the 2-unit even though you're looking for a 4-unit. But if you're looking for, let's say, a 6-unit and you come across a 4-unit, that is a big difference, because everything on the 6-unit is based on NOI, when everything on the 4-unit is based on residential prices. So that's a big difference. So you may want to hold your guns. You might want to hold to your strategy when it comes to that 6-unit over that 4-unit, because the price will change with the 6-unit. And as far as down payment, 20% with the residential, 25% with the multifamily. And then everything with the multifamily is based on NOI. So the more money that property makes with that 6-unit, the more money that property is worth. As opposed to the 4-unit, it's just based on the properties it's surrounded by. So it's a big difference. So it's very important to be patient when it comes to you looking for a property. Okay. The second big thing that you want to make sure that you do is location. Number 2 is location, and this is very big. Location is everything. We all know location, location, location. We've heard it a million times, and it's true. One thing with location is you can fix up a property, but you cannot fix the location. Remember that. That's very important to understand. You can fix the property, but you cannot fix the location. The people in that area are going to come with the property. So if you buy in a property that's low income, your tenants are most likely going to be low income. And there's nothing wrong with that, but just be prepared for that. Now, if you're looking for upscale tenants, well, then you need to buy in an upscale area. And that's very important. Low income tenants may not pay their rent on time, as opposed to high income tenants. That's one of the things that may vary. So location is very important. So keep that in mind. Keep location in mind. That's very important. The third thing out of the 5 things that I want to talk about today is do not overpay for your property. When you find your property, make sure that you do your homework on the property. So you want to make sure you take your income, you subtract your expenses, and then you have NOI. When you come to 5 units or more, anything after the expenses is called the NOI. Then you pay your mortgage, and then you have cash flow. So you want to make sure your cash flow is always positive, whether you're in residential or if you're in multifamily property, commercial property. You want to make sure that you always keep a positive cash flow, especially starting off as a beginner. I think that's very important. There are a lot of people out here today who are buying for tax purposes, but for people who are beginning, I would say that's probably not your strategy, is to buy for tax purposes. That might become later on, as you start investing. But for the people who are beginners and you're looking to invest in your first property, you want to make sure you have a positive cash flow. After you pay the mortgage, you want to make sure that you're still putting money in your pocket. Okay? You also want to keep a reserve for the property. You always want to make sure you have a reserve for the property, but you always want to make sure that you're able to pay yourself also. Make it worth your while. You want to make it worth your while. If it's a negative cash flow, you don't want it. So that goes back to being patient. Be patient and wait for the right property. Okay? The fourth thing that I want to talk about out of the 5 things today is knowing how much your repairs are going to cost after you purchase the property. So when you're doing your due diligence on a property, and you should always do your due diligence on your property when you're buying a property, one of the things you should do is always inspect your property. Hire an inspector to go out there and inspect your property, and you want to make sure that you know all the repairs. It doesn't hurt to call an electrician, a plumber, a roofer, a contractor. Ask them how much is it going to cost to repaint this wall or put down some flooring, especially if you're not handy yourself. You want to know how much these repairs are going to cost, because that's going to affect your ROI, your return on your investment. So that may be, it could be a deal breaker. Once you find out all the things that are wrong with the property, is it worth your while? Do you have enough money to fix up all these things that are wrong with the property? That's very important. So you always want to know how much it's going to cost for you to fix up the property before you purchase the property. That's very important. I can't stress that enough. So, like I said, if you have to, call a contractor or somebody out there and get some quotes and see how much it's going to cost for you to fix up the property. You can always go back to the seller and renegotiate the price once you find all these things out. And the last thing that I want to talk to you guys about is tenant screening after you buy the property. Tenant screening is very important. You don't want to just rent out a unit and say, hey, I need the money. It's been sitting empty for months. I need to get somebody in here, and you don't want to do the tenant screening. That person may get in there and may not want to pay you your money, and you didn't do a background check on this person. And now it's going to cost you more money to get them out than it was when it was just sitting there empty. Okay, so I personally use a property manager. It puts a buffer between me and my tenants, and they do tenant screening, and they know how to do tenant screening. I'm not really up on that. I like to work on my business and not in my business. So while I'm looking for new property to invest in, my property managers are working on keeping that one maintained. All I got to do is keep up with my property managers to make sure that they're keeping it maintained. So that's a very important thing to do. So tenant screening is very important, and finding the right people to rent your apartments is very important. So make sure you do a good job of tenant screening, and you don't skip any steps when it comes to tenant screening. So I just want to say thanks for everybody watching this video. It's my first video. It might not be as nice right now, but things will get better. Well, let's face it, things can't get any worse than what they already are now. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Please leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos, and I'll see you at the next one.